There are loads of different types of gravel bikes out there, but what's actually the difference between them? I'm going to take a close look at a Canyon Grizl and a Canyon Grail to try to find out. Gravel means many things to many people. And I'm not just talking about the merits of pea gravel versus blossom gravel for your ornamental flower beds. Nope, I'm talking gravel bikes, which can be anything from easy riding, mile munching adventure bikes built for handlebar bags, smelling roses, and drinking new wave session IPAs. Don't mind if I do. And they can be fast, aggressive bikes designed to go from A to B as quickly as possible. Probably to be ridden while wearing a skin suit, aero socks, and a camelback chase vest. The stopping is for losers. The reality is, most of us probably want something in the middle. And nobody really wants aero socks. But how do you know what you're getting if you're buying a new gravel bike? And how big are the differences actually between them? To find out, we've got these two different gravel bikes from one of our long-time supporters here at GCN, Canyon. They have in their range the Grizl, which is a bike they say is for gravel adventure, and the Grail, which is apparently for gravel performance. Easy to see why you might get confused. Now, this Grail is a top-of-the-range CFR model. It's only got a couple of 100 miles on it. This Grizl is much loved. It has a lot of miles on it. This is the CF SLX model, and it's been with us for a couple of years now, which is why a lot of this bike is non-standard. Quite a lot of things get swapped out for different GCN videos. In fact, someone has even borrowed my Di2, which actually this GRX mechanical is so good, I'm not in a massive rush to get it back. But anyway, here's our two bikes for the day. The cool thing about gravel is that unless your bike is on the extreme end of the spectrum of racy to rowdy or all road to adventure, you can both go fast and smell roses on the same rig. You can go racing and bikepacking on the same rig. And you can wear whatever the hell you want. However, that doesn't mean that there aren't differences and that one type of gravel bike might not be better suited to one type of gravel rider over another. So let me begin. Although, do you mind if I take these jean shorts off? I think they might give me a bit of chafage. Let's start with one of the biggest factors that differentiates gravel bikes. Unfortunately, actually one of the easiest to spot, and that is tyre clearance. Not how wide the tyres are, because they're easy to swap in and out, but how wide can you actually fit in? Because generally, tyre clearance is a really good statement of intent as to what a bike is actually capable of doing. The wider the tyre, the more extreme the terrain. And yeah, we are talking about gravel here, so extreme kind of means bumps and rocks. In this case, the Grizl has clearance for 50mm wide tyres, whereas the Grail has a more conservative 42mm max clearance. The reason for that is that Canyon said they consulted their pro gravel athletes who all said that they would not race on anything wider than a 42. Ergo, the fastest gravelers on the planet have said that 42 is what you need to go as fast as possible. How much difference does tyre width make in real life then? Well, quite a lot, actually. On a rocky descent like this one, you can definitely feel the difference. I know it's a climb currently, but I'm going to come back down it, all right? On the flip side though, what difference does it make on road or on mellow gravel? It's actually quite a complicated answer. Basically, a larger version of the same tyre will have less rolling resistance, so it's easier to move it. However, you will also need to lower the pressure inside that larger tyre in order for it to still feel as comfortable, and that can increase the rolling resistance back up ever so slightly. However, what's really important to note is that a lower pressure inside the tyre will make it roll smoother, so you reduce your vibration losses. Nerd alert. I know. What that means then, basically, is that if you're riding along and the bike feels smoother, you will be going significantly faster. It takes much less effort to go the same speed. Where the difference comes into play is that a narrow tyre is more aerodynamic. So at gravel performance speeds, the difference between a 50mm tyre and a 40mm tyre can definitely be felt and measured. Now, you can, of course, put a narrow tyre inside a bike with big clearance, and you can't put a fat tyre on a bike with less clearance. But the reason for potentially having a bike with less clearance is there are a couple of things. Firstly, at the back of the bike, with less tyre clearance, you can potentially engineer slightly shorter chain stays, and that can make the bike feel a little bit lively, a little bit more agile, saves a bit of weight, of course, improves stiffness. But then also, you can potentially change the gearing that you can use. So on some fat-tired gravel bikes, you can only run a 1x chainring setup. You can see on this Grizl, that's not the case. I've got 2x. But on the case of the Grail, you can actually not only run 2x, but you can run road cranks as well with correspondingly larger chainrings. So if you want to / can go at super fast gravel speeds, that could be of interest. But perhaps more to the point, if your gravel bike is going to do dual service as a road bike as well, larger chainrings could well be a bonus. Next up, we've touched on this briefly already, but geometry can really set gravel bikes apart from one another. On one hand, you've got basically road bikes with slightly fatter tyres, which is no bad thing because on easy gravel, they can feel fun in the right hands, even if that sort of nervousness doesn't then translate into actual speed. And then on the other hand, you've got gravel bikes that are really stable. Now, you might think that a bike with wider tyre clearance, therefore, is going to have more stable geometry because it's doing extreme gravel, and often that is the case. But interestingly, here, it's not, okay? Because when Canyon were designing the new Grail, they said they spent quite a long time analysing steering dynamics, and they ended up settling on a geometry that both increased the stability of this bike by making it longer, but also at the same time keeping it feeling similarly responsive by making the stem shorter and then increasing the fork offset. Nerd alert. Yeah, so basically that is how far forward the front wheel sits in relation to this here, which is the head tube angle. You can tell a lot about a bike's handling from the geometry chart, but it is quite hard sometimes to decipher. What you can and should pay attention to on the geometry chart are the two figures called reach and stack. Stack is how high the handlebars are, and a low stack means you'll have quite an aggressive, fast position, whereas a high stack is great for going slowly and smelling roses. A long reach and low stack can help to really stretch you out, which is great if you want to go fast, but might not suit everybody if you're thinking of adventuring around the world. On these two bikes we've got here today, though, when you look at the geometry chart, the stack and reach are actually pretty similar despite their intended usages. Next up, let's talk about weight. Light gravel bikes are very likely to be fast gravel bikes, but light bikes tend also to be slightly less robust than heavier bikes for the simple reason that there is less material in the frame, although that's when they're engineered to the same level of quality, of course. In this case, the Grail CFR here, which is the lightest gravel bike that Canyon do, weighs just 850 grams for the frame. Now, it is more than strong enough for off-road riding and all the accidental mistreatment that comes with that, but significantly, the Grizl doesn't have that top top-end CFR Racing Edition frame set. So the CF SLX, which is the top of that range, has got a little bit more material in it. It weighs 955 grams, and that's because it's designed to withstand even more knocks and bangs, the kind of thing that's inevitable when you go bikepacking. It doesn't mean that this CFR is fragile, just that the priorities are weight and stiffness. While it's not a given that any bike will follow suit, heavy bikes don't definitely mean strong bikes. How well it's been designed and engineered is a critical factor. It can be a bit of a guide. So if you're looking at a workhorse bike to cover in bags and to lock up outside your work or lug around the world, an extra bit of weight is perhaps not a bad thing. What about comfort then? That is something that is usually sacrificed on the altar of speed, and so it is in this case as well. This particular Grail CFR model has been made stiffer at the request of Canyon's pro gravelers, but actually all the new Grails do away with this super cushy leaf spring seat post that you get on the Grizl. And you can't even fit one aftermarket either, because the new Grails have a D-shaped seat post. The reason they've got a D-shaped seat post is for comfort, because yes, Canyon's engineers have been able to build in real significant compliance here as well, but just not as much as you get on the Grizl. Many gravel bikes have features specifically to increase comfort and can be as effective as these ones here, so keep your eyes peeled when you're on the lookout for your new bike. However, if you're really after comfort, you would want bigger tyres, naturally, and suspension as well. Be that suspension seat post, stem, or forks, which are actually an option on the Grizl, but not on the Grail. Does 30mm of gravel-specific suspension make a difference? Yes it does. To a mountain biker, 30mm sounds piddly, but we're not talking about hucking cliffs or racing downhill World Cups here. On gravel, it gives you way more point and shoot ability, and you can go a lot faster in technical terrain, plus it is way more comfortable. And more suspension options are cropping up on gravel bikes, but it's still not exactly commonplace. The last couple of points to mention, again, come down to specific bike choices and things to look out for. Like the new Grail, for example, has an aero bar option and also onboard storage. But also, I want to touch briefly on mounting points. Okay, so that gives a really good indication of what a bike's intended for. Typically, the more mounting points, the more adventurous it is. So whilst in our case now, the new Grail has got mounting points for its bespoke frame bag, which is small and in keeping with the race thing aesthetic. And yes, you can get special fork sleeves that allow you to carry stuff on the front forks. On this Grizl, as you can see, those mounting points on the forks come as standard. And on the aluminium Grizl, you even get rack mounts as well at the back. Generally, on a more performance-oriented gravel bike, you won't get the same amount of mounting points because you don't need them. Not having them saves weight, and it also gives you a cleaner aesthetic. But that doesn't mean that you can't put protective frame tape on it and then festoon it with loads of different bags and then go off around the world safely bikepacking. So what can you learn from all of this, aside from the nuances of these two specific bikes? When you are buying your new gravel bike, pay attention to those subtle factors, like the gearing that you can run and the position that the bike wants to put you in, and also the geometry and the handling of the bike, as well as factors that might improve the comfort or allow you to carry more stuff. But as well, the number one factor that you mustn't forget is the importance of tyre clearance and all the implications of that. Now, before leaving this video, quick favour, I really want to know your thoughts as to which of these two bikes you prefer. Gravel adventure with the Grizl or gravel performance and the Grail? Get involved in the comment section down below. Be very interested to know that one. Also, before leaving, give the video a big thumbs up if you've enjoyed it.